I mean, I was taking shavings off of the whole length for most of it. Try one more. There. That is perfectly flush. Now I've got to figure out which is the, this is the bottom, I believe. So the top side, I'll pay a little more attention to. Make sure I'm still flush here. Yep. And see which way I need to go with this plane. Try it this way. This side needs a little less attention than the other. Flush. Out here is where I'm got to put a little more work into it. I want to show you how little wood I take off of both sides here. A little bit more here. Moving on me. There it is. One more pass. Right there. Okay. So this is the top side. Well, that's nice. That is perfect. Now I'm perfectly flush. Beautiful. Alright, I've decided to cut the rabbets or the shoulders into this push stick body block. So it's this high, full cut across this, but you want to cut it evenly to this depth so that they end up being the same thickness this way. And doing some quick math, these two handles, my other one is over on the other side of the shop, but I measured them both. They're very consistent because they came out of the same piece of wood. So these measure 0.6885 and these measure 4.4705. So the difference being 0.218, which means I have to take off a little over 100 thousandths from each side of this stick, the block. Now I can do that in one of two ways. I can do it with a table saw in the vertical blade, or do it with a router bit and trim it this way. I'm going to do both. I'm going to take the majority off at the saw with the saw blade, and then finish it up with this. So this it will become my reference face on both sides because I'm removing all of this material here. So I have to have a high fence, and I'll set that up. But I think I'll get a cleaner cut, finish cut with this rather than a saw blade. So let me do that, and I'll show you both operations here. Pretty decent cut off the saw, but I'm going to do the, I've got the bulk removed here. I'm going to do the rest on the router table and get that hopefully a nice clean shearing cut with that 1/2 inch router bit, spiral bit. But I like that so far. Got a shoulder going over here, and I've got to cut this angle, but let me finish this up at the router table. Alright, that is awful close. This one has got maybe a little bit of a warp to it because it has developed a taper out here at the end. I'm going to make one more pass. I'm not going to change this setting, I'm just going to change this one. I'm going to raise my bit just a fraction more. And make one more pass. This one is nice and true. Pretty consistent measurements all the way down the line. I've got to take a little bit more off of this one. So height adjustment. That should be my final adjustment there. Yeah. So I'll run it one more time, take my measurements, and maybe adjust this a hair. 40.847 degrees. Needless to say, I'm not going to reach that level of accuracy. I'm going to call it 41. So I took my adjustable angle square here, set it to 41, the best my eyeballs can register it that way, and then scribed a line from that point. It goes from basically 0 to removing that much material on the end. So I've got to get this set up, and actually it's going to go this way. Let me see here. No, it's going to go, yeah, it's going to go this way. Tilt my miter gauge to 41, right about there. Nope, that's not going to be right. I'm going to clamp my piece and then drew a couple of lines to mirror this. And you can see I didn't get all that close, but that's okay. Now I'm going to get it dialed in here. Get this extended a little more. Okay, there's my 41. Put another screw in here. Clamp on this end. Extend my line so I know where I'm going. Somewhere up in there. If your handle's in a way, you don't have to click all the way from the bottom. You can move it up a couple of ratchets. Get yourself some room. Now when I originally checked this opening against my lines on my hook piece, I call it, this was a little bit forward, and now I understand why. This is going to drop down and change that location, so I'll see how well they match up now. Well, if I put that in the proper place, I hope you can see this. These lines are very close, but I'm going to take the actual line. I mean, this one is almost dead nuts, and that one's a little further back. I'm going to take this line, erase them, and make marks based on this real world situation, I'll call it, before I glue this up. But it's awful close, that's for sure. This is a better explanation of what's going on. You can see my lines are a little bit off there. So I'm going to erase these. I've got this screwed tight and using it as a clamp, actually. And then that's where this spring is going to sit in here. So I want this line to be right about here. And this one over here. Like that. Yeah, and if I take those lines, I won't be too upset about that. But that'll give me that room, and then I just need to figure out the depth of this cut. All right, here's how I'm going to explain this to you, I guess. The hook is established back here. It's 1/4 inch deep, and then so I'll make that cut and run this the full length. Then about halfway, there's a taper put on it to get it up inside the body here. All right, that can be an arbitrary look to it. I'll figure out what looks the best there, and then put that slight taper on that. On the top, where you have this cut out for the spring, it's 3/32 plus 1/8 inch cut from here. Let me see if I can. Well, anyway, from the back, it's actually right over the center of this pivot, about 7 inches, which is right about where I put my mark. So from there back is an 1/8 inch relief cut, and then from that cut down is 3/32. So that's where I'm getting my 7/32 from. 1/8 plus 3, 4 plus 3, 7/32. So it's going to be easier to cut this while it's square and able to ride flat on the table. So I'll make that cut first. Then I'll cut this edge, establish that shoulder and make this cut. And then the rest is just pretty much, aesthetics, I guess, from there. This may have to be relieved a little bit at an angle to allow it to drop down. But for now, I'm going to leave that alone. But there may be a slight bevel cut here, or angle cut. I wouldn't call it a cut. I guess I'd probably just end up doing it with my belt sander station, and just put a slight angle on that so that it can drop fully down and get my hook fully seated. Right, I made my spring notch, and that turned out good. Next, I cut my shoulder, not all the way, but just to depth, so that established my shoulder for the hook. The next thing I want to do is make this cut here on side do I want to make? On this side, from about the center of the pivot point back 1/8 inch. So from here back. Now, to establish that depth, rather than sneaking up on my cut with these two pieces, I'm using a backer board so I don't get any chip out on this piece. Rather than using these, I just use my backer board to establish that depth of cut. So all I'll do here is make my first cut, make several relief cuts going that direction until I can set my saw up and run it the rest of the way with a long cut. So here goes. I think I've got this set up correctly now. Yeah. So I've got my depth already set. I'm good. But the tip was check your backer board for depth rather than your work pieces. should have enough room to make this long cut with just taking a full blade width. And this isn't all that critical. I can always come back here. We'll see where that gets me. I think I'm a little shy of the full blade. Yeah, just barely. Yeah, okay, I want to make sure that I am. I'll raise my blade up here and see how close I can get to this cutout. Just a hair tall, my gauge is. Make one more pass here. That should do it. Okay, the rest will come off with a chisel. Alright, true this up, finish these cuts, and then I should be 90% of the way there. We'll see.